Part 1. Shadows of betrayal. The night was as cold and unforgiving as the abyss that had swallowed my soul. I stood alone in the heart of the abyssal citadel, the great fortress that rose like a jagged wound from the land of Unris. The dark stone walls loomed around me, whispering the secrets of ancient power and betrayal. The air was thick with the scent of iron and despair, a constant reminder of my servitude to my dark master. My name is Coloso, the dark paladin of the citadel, a title I wear like a shroud. My existence was once defined by the honor of my oaths and the light of my convictions. But that was before I had been consumed by shadows and deceit. Now, I was a puppet of the darkness, my every action dictated by the whims of a malevolent force that took pleasure in tormenting both me and those I loved. It was the dead of night when the Dark Master summoned me to his chamber. The air was electric with a palpable sense of dread as I crossed the threshold, my boots echoing off the cold stone. He sat upon his obsidian throne, his eyes glowing with an eerie red light that spoke of ancient, malevolent power. Coloso, his voice was like the rumble of thunder in a storm. You have proven your worth to me, but there remains one final test, a trial of loyalty that will ensure your place by my side forever. I knelt before him, my heart heavy with a mix of anticipation and fear. What must I do, my lord? A cruel smile curled on his lips. You have always spoken of your love for Nimarola, the succubus who defied the very essence of our darkness with her light. She has become a threat to my plans, a thorn in my side. You will confront her, and you will bring her to me, dead. The words struck me like a physical blow. Nimarola was not just a powerful succubus, she was the love of my life. Her eyes, once a vibrant shade of crimson, now haunted my dreams with their innocent gaze. The thought of facing her in battle, of having to end her life, was a torment beyond measure. My lord, I began, my voice trembling despite my efforts to remain stoic. How can I? Do not question my will, he interrupted, his gaze growing darker. You have been given a task and you will complete it. If you fail, you will face the consequences. There was no room for negotiation. His commands were absolute, and defiance was not an option. I bowed my head, concealing the turmoil within. It shall be done. The Dark Master's gaze softened, and he waved a dismissive hand. You have until the morrow. Use this time wisely. Prepare yourself. As I left the chamber, my mind was consumed by a whirlwind of thoughts. How could I possibly bring myself to harm Nimarola? The very idea was abhorrent. Yet, what choice did I have? The thought of defying the Dark Master and suffering his wrath was a fate worse than death itself. In the darkness of my quarters, I paced like a caged beast. The walls seemed to close in around me, a physical manifestation of the torment within. I could see her face so clearly in my mind, the way her lips curved into a smile, the warmth of her embrace. It was those memories that fueled my resolve to find another way, to save her from this cruel fate. By dawn, the sun rose over the horizon, casting a faint, pale light through the narrow windows of the citadel. I donned my armor, a blackened suit of plate that bore the sigils of my master's dark realm. Each piece felt like a weight upon my shoulders, a reminder of the burdens I bore. With a heavy heart, I made my way to the portal that would lead me to Nimarola's domain. The path was fraught with danger, a treacherous journey through the twisted lands of Unris, where shadows moved with a life of their own. Every step was a battle against my own despair, a desperate attempt to find a way to protect her. The portal opened with a flash of dark energy, and I stepped through, emerging into the labyrinthine caverns where Nimarola resided. The air was thick with the sweet scent of her magic, a stark contrast to the acrid stench of the abyssal citadel. I approached the grand hall where Nimarola often held court, my heart pounding with each step. The grand chamber was illuminated by a soft, ethereal glow that seemed to emanate from the very walls. It was here that I had first met her, where our destinies had intertwined in a dance of light and shadow. And there she was, standing at the far end of the hall, her eyes glowing with a fierce, otherworldly light. The sight of her took my breath away, and for a moment I was lost in the beauty of her presence. But then, the cruel reality of my mission came crashing back, and I felt the weight of my despair settle heavily upon me. "Coloso," she spoke, her voice like music, yet tinged with a hint of sadness. "What brings you here? I had hoped we would never meet under such dire circumstances." Her words cut through me like a blade, and I struggled to find my voice. "Nimarola, I have been sent to bring you to my master." Her expression shifted to one of confusion, and then to horror as the realization dawned. "You mean to kill me?" "I have no choice," I said, my voice barely more than a whisper. "My master's will is absolute. If I disobey, I risk everything." Tears welled in her eyes, and she took a step toward me, her hand reaching out as if to bridge the chasm that had opened between us. "Coloso, you know I would never harm you. There must be another way. We can find it together." But as I drew my sword, a chilling wind swept through the chamber, and the Dark Master's influence became palpable. The room seemed to distort and darken, and I knew that any attempt to defy him would be met with swift retribution. The final confrontation loomed before us, an inevitable clash that would determine the fate of our love and our lives. The Dark Master's command hung over me like a blade, and I could see no escape from the tragic end that awaited. With a heavy heart, I prepared for the fight. The battle that would follow would not only be a test of my skills but also a trial of my soul. And as I faced the one I loved with a heart full of sorrow, I knew that the true battle was not against her, but against the darkness that had twisted my fate. The outcome of this tragic encounter remained uncertain, hanging in the balance between love and duty, between light and shadow. The path ahead was shrouded in darkness, and only time would reveal the consequences of this fateful clash. Part 2. The hunt for vengeance. Years have passed since that fateful night, and the shadows of my past continue to haunt me. The abyssal citadel stands empty, its dark master now nothing more than a whisper in the annals of history. I am Coloso Amazi, the last of the dark paladins, wandering the lands of Unris in search of redemption and vengeance. The death of my dark master was both a curse and a blessing. Jinia, the great female golden dragon, was the one who had delivered the final blow. Her scales gleamed with the light of the sun, a stark contrast to the darkness I had been consumed by. Her fierce roar and the destruction she wrought were enough to topple the citadel's dark reign. But her victory came at a great personal cost to me. My beloved Nimarola was gone, and with her, any hope of reclaiming the light that once guided my path. The world seemed to have turned a shade darker since her death, and I was left with nothing but the cold, unfeeling purpose of vengeance. I remember the day Jinia's name was first whispered to me, a tale of glory and conquest that left a bitter taste in my mouth. It was said that she had come from the northern mountains, her fiery breath scorching the skies and her wings casting shadows across the land. I could see her as clearly as I could see the blood on my hands, her majestic form forever intertwined with the ruin of my life. I set out on my quest alone, guided by the whispers of those who had witnessed her wrath and the tales of her travels. My armor, now tarnished and battered from years of relentless pursuit, bore the scars of countless battles fought in the name of vengeance. My sword, once a symbol of my servitude, had become an instrument of retribution, its blade as cold and unyielding as my heart. The trail led me northward, through treacherous terrain and desolate lands. The northern mountains were a realm of ice and stone, their peaks lost in the clouds. As I ascended, the air grew colder, and the weight of my purpose seemed to press down upon me like the snow that blanketed the ground. It was in these mountains that I first caught sight of her, a shimmering figure against the backdrop of a setting sun. Genea was a sight to behold, her scales reflecting the dying light in a dazzling display of gold and fire. Her eyes, however, were sharp and discerning, and she seemed to sense my approach long before I made my presence known. "Coloso amazi," she spoke, her voice echoing like thunder across the peaks. "I have been expecting you." The words were as much a statement of fact as they were a challenge. Her gaze bore into me, a mix of curiosity and wariness. It was clear that she knew of my quest and the burden that drove me forward. "I have come to end this," I said, my voice steady despite the chill that gripped my bones. "You are the one who brought down the Dark Master, the one who stole my future. I seek retribution for the love I lost." Genea's expression remained calm, though there was a glimmer of sadness in her eyes. "I did not come to unrisk to cause suffering. I came to stop a tyrant who threatened the balance of our world. It was not my intention to become your enemy." Her words did little to quell the fire within me. The path I had chosen was one of darkness, and I could not turn back now. Intentions matter little when the cost is so great. I have lost everything, and I cannot forgive. The dragon's wings unfurled, a magnificent display of power and grace. "Then you leave me no choice but to defend myself." With a roar that shook the very mountains, Genea launched into the air, her golden form a blur of motion. I drew my sword, the metal glinting in the waning light, and prepared for the confrontation that would determine our fates. The battle that ensued was one of fire and steel, of light and shadow clashing in a brutal dance. Genea's breath of fire scorched the ground, and her powerful tail lashed out with devastating force. I moved with the precision and skill honed by years of training and battle, each strike of my sword aiming to pierce her scales. Despite her strength and majesty, there was a weariness in her movements, a sense that she was not merely fighting to defeat me, but to bring an end to the cycle of vengeance that bound us both. Each clash of our forces echoed with the pain and loss that had driven me to this moment. As the battle raged on, there was a brief lull, a moment where our eyes met amidst the chaos. It was then that I saw the truth behind Genea's actions. She was not a mere agent of destruction, but a guardian of balance, forced into a role she had not chosen. The realization hit me with the force of a hammer. I was no longer just fighting for vengeance. I was battling against the very essence of what I had become. The darkness that had consumed me was not just a result of my master's machinations, but a reflection of my own choices. In that moment of clarity, I made a decision. Lowering my sword, I took a step back, my breath coming in ragged gasps. Genea hovered above me, her expression a mixture of surprise and relief. "I cannot continue this," I said, my voice heavy with the weight of my realization. "I have sought vengeance for so long that I lost sight of what truly matters." Genea landed gracefully before me, her eyes softening as she regarded me with a newfound understanding. "Perhaps it is not too late to seek redemption, Coloso. The path you choose now will determine whether you find it." The truth of her words resonated deep within me. The quest for vengeance had consumed me, leaving no room for the light that I had once known. Now, with the dragon before me and the weight of my past pressing heavily upon my shoulders, I was faced with a choice. The path ahead was uncertain, the journey to redemption fraught with challenges and doubts. But for the first time in years, I felt a flicker of hope, a glimmer of the light that had once guided me. And so, as the northern winds howled around us, I stood at a crossroads. The choice between vengeance and redemption lay before me, and the path I chose would determine the future of my soul. Part 3. The path to redemption. Time, the great healer, had woven its threads between me and Jinea, the golden dragon who had once been my enemy. Our battles had been replaced by conversations and shared journeys. The mountains of the north, once the stage of our fierce confrontations, became the backdrop of our gradual understanding and newfound companionship. Jinea had shown me a path beyond vengeance, one that led to a semblance of redemption. She spoke often of Paris, the goddess of law, lineage, and the royal blood. Her guidance was said to be the key to healing the wounds of a soul lost in darkness. The goddess, with her divine wisdom, could offer me the clarity and purpose I so desperately sought. Coloso, Jinea had said one day, her golden eyes reflecting the warmth of a setting sun. The path you seek lies in finding Paris. She waits in an old church, broken and forgotten by time. It is there that you will discover your true purpose. Her guidance will shape your blade and guide you to a path of redemption. The journey to find the old church was arduous, filled with trials that tested not only my physical strength, but also my resolve. The landscapes shifted from treacherous mountains to desolate plains, each step a testament to the commitment I had made to seek out Paris. When I finally arrived at the church, its appearance was a stark contrast to the grandeur of the divine being I sought. The structure was a relic of a bygone era, its once majestic walls now crumbling and overgrown with ivy. The air was thick with the scent of decay, and the only sounds were the whispers of the wind and the distant calls of birds. Inside, the church was dimly lit by the filtered light that managed to penetrate through the cracked, stained glass windows. The once sacred space now bore the marks of time's relentless passage. A lone figure occupied the altar, a blind priest, his sightless eyes turned upward as if in perpetual prayer. His presence was serene, a calm beacon amidst the ruin. I approached him with a mix of awe and trepidation. "I seek Paris," I said, my voice echoing in the empty space. "Jinea sent me here seeking guidance for my troubled soul." The priest's head turned slightly toward me, as if he could sense my presence without the need for sight. "The goddess is here," he said softly, his voice carrying the weight of ancient wisdom. "But her presence is not one that can be easily seen or touched. It is felt through the heart, through the journey you undertake." I spent the years that followed in the shadow of the broken church, dedicating myself to the service of the goddess and the guidance of the blind priest. My days were filled with ritual and reflection, my nights spent in meditation and prayer. The task was not easy. The isolation and the weight of my past sins were burdens that often felt insurmountable. But slowly, I began to find a semblance of peace. The goddess's presence, though intangible, became a guiding force in my life. Her teachings, delivered through the priest's gentle words and my own introspection, started to shape my understanding of justice, law, and redemption. The blind priest, though physically sightless, had a vision that transcended the material world. His wisdom was profound, and he became a mentor in ways I had not anticipated. Through our conversations and his guidance, I learned to reconcile the darkness within me with the light I sought to reclaim. Years passed, and the broken church, though still in disrepair, became a place of solace and purpose. The divine presence of Paris, though elusive, was felt in every moment of clarity and every step toward redemption. My blade, once a symbol of vengeance, began to take on new meaning, a tool for justice, and a reflection of the path I had chosen. As the seasons changed and the world outside continued its endless cycle, I knew that my journey was far from over. The path to redemption was a lifelong pursuit, and while I had made strides toward healing, there remained much to be done. Janaea, who had become a trusted friend and ally, visited occasionally, her golden form a reminder of the journey we had shared. Our conversations, once filled with tension and conflict, had evolved into discussions of purpose and growth. She continued to offer her wisdom, a reminder of the bond we had forged through our shared experiences. And so, I remained at the broken church, my heart and mind attuned to the teachings of Paris and the guidance of the blind priest. My blade, now a symbol of justice and redemption, awaited the day when I would once again step into the world beyond, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The journey toward redemption was far from complete, but each day brought me closer to understanding the true nature of justice and the divine light that had once seemed so distant. The path was uncertain, but with the guidance of Paris and the support of those who had become a part of my life, I moved forward with a renewed sense of purpose. Part 3.5. Nightmares of the Soul. The nights at the broken church were a time of restless reflection, the hours stretching into endless darkness. My dreams, once a sanctuary of hope and light, had become a realm of torment and despair. As I lay in my modest quarters, the weight of my past sins pressed heavily upon me, and sleep brought no respite. Each night was haunted by visions that twisted my reality into grotesque reflections of my own failings. In these nightmares, I was not the seeker of redemption, but the very embodiment of darkness, a figure whose actions had caused untold suffering across the land of Unris. In one dream, I stood in a village, one that I did not recognize but felt achingly familiar. The streets were empty save for the skeletal remains of what once were homes. The air was thick with the smell of decay and despair. As I wandered through the desolate streets, the faces of the villagers appeared, their eyes hollow and accusing. They pointed fingers at me, their mouths moving in silent screams of anguish. I was the cause of their suffering, their hunger, their death. I awoke in a cold sweat, my heart pounding in my chest. The darkness of the room seemed to close in on me, and the echoes of the villagers' cries lingered in my ears. Despite the sanctuary of the church, the nightmares left me feeling exposed and vulnerable, a stark reminder of the monstrous figure I feared I had become. On another night, the dream took me to a desolate battlefield. The ground was littered with bodies, and the air was filled with the scent of blood and smoke. I was clad in my dark armor, my sword stained with the blood of countless innocents. The cries of the dying echoed around me, their voices merging into a cacophony of suffering. I stood at the center of the battlefield, my blade raised high as if in triumph, but the victory was hollow, the cost unbearable. These dreams were a manifestation of my deepest fears, the fear that I was the monster in the stories whispered by the firesides, the cause of the suffering and loss that plagued the land. The nightmares became more vivid and relentless, each one a haunting reminder of the blood on my hands and the darkness in my heart. The blind priest, perceptive to my turmoil even without sight, offered words of solace. The darkness you face is not just a reflection of your past but a challenge to your resolve. To confront the monster within, you must understand its nature and seek to change it. His words, though comforting, did little to dispel the horrors that plagued my nights. The nightmares were not merely figments of my imagination, but a cruel manifestation of my guilt and remorse. They were a mirror, showing me the monster I had become and the pain I had inflicted upon the world. The goddess Paris, whose presence I felt more acutely in my waking moments, seemed distant and unreachable in my dreams. The path to redemption appeared obscured by the shadows of my past, and the nightmares became a battleground where my soul fought against the darkness that sought to consume it. Despite the horrors that awaited me each night, I knew that to overcome these nightmares, I had to face them head-on. The dreams were a reflection of my inner demons, and the only way to escape their grip was to confront the truth and seek forgiveness, not just from others but from myself. Each morning, I rose from my troubled sleep with a renewed sense of determination. The nightmares might have been a manifestation of my deepest fears, but they also served as a reminder of the journey I was on, a journey toward redemption and understanding. As the years at the broken church continued, I came to see the nightmares not as a punishment, but as a necessary part of my path. They were the catalysts for change, the impetus to strive for a better understanding of myself and my actions. The monster within was not a permanent fixture, but a challenge to be overcome, a darkness that could be transformed through redemption and growth. And so, I faced each day with the resolve to make amends for the suffering I had caused. The nightmares might continue to haunt me, but they were no longer a source of despair. Instead, they were a reminder of the work that lay ahead and the importance of continuing my journey toward redemption. Part 4. The Song of Redemption. The years at the broken church had been transformative. Each day of toil and reflection had gradually sculpted me into something new, though the road to redemption was still long. The nightmares that once plagued my sleep had become less frequent, replaced by moments of clarity and growth. I had dedicated myself to the teachings of Paris, finding solace in the rituals and the quiet wisdom of the blind priest. My training intensified, pushing me to sharpen not only my skills but also my inner resolve. In my quest for redemption, I sought a deeper connection with the goddess Paris. Her presence, though elusive, was a guiding force, an ever-present whisper that guided me through my darkest moments. I had trained to the point where I could almost feel the resonance of her divine essence. It was said that those who sought her favor would one day hear her song, a divine melody that transcended mortal understanding and touched the very core of one's soul. As the days turned into years, I found myself increasingly attuned to the subtle presence of Paris. The air seemed to hum with an ethereal energy, a quiet symphony that resonated within me. Each note of the goddess's song was a balm to my troubled soul, a reminder of the light that awaited beyond the darkness. One evening, as I lay down to sleep, I felt a profound shift within me. The familiar chill of the night was replaced by an unusual warmth, and as I closed my eyes, I found myself transported once more into the realm of dreams. But this time, the dreamscape was different. It was vibrant and alive, a stark contrast to the broken church I had known. I stood within the grand hall of the church, but it was no longer a ruin. The walls were whole, the stained glass windows intact, casting a kaleidoscope of colors across the floor. The air was filled with the sweet scent of incense and the faint strains of a divine melody. It was as though the church had been restored to its former glory, a manifestation of the transformation that had occurred within me. But as I took in the renewed splendor of the church, I heard the unmistakable sound of heavy footsteps. The double doors of the grand hall burst open with a resounding crash, and my darker self, my former self, the embodiment of my fears and regrets, stormed in. Clad in dark, menacing armor, he was a twisted reflection of who I had once been, a being who knew all my weaknesses and insecurities. The sight of him was both familiar and terrifying. He moved with an air of dominance, his presence a stark reminder of the monster I had been. The arrogance in his posture and the contempt in his eyes spoke of a self that had once held sway over my actions and thoughts. I stood my ground, feeling the weight of my past pressing down upon me. The room seemed to contract and expand with the force of his presence, as if the very walls of the church were holding their breath in anticipation of the confrontation. But before the dark figure could advance further, the room was enveloped in a soothing light. The divine melody intensified, and the presence of Paris became palpable. The light coalesced into a figure of radiant beauty, a vision of grace and authority that commanded reverence. Paris appeared before me, her form both awe-inspiring and comforting. She was a vision of divine elegance, her presence filling the room with a sense of profound peace. Her eyes, though filled with ancient wisdom, were gentle and understanding. "Coloso," she spoke, her voice like a harmonious chord, "you have come far in your journey. The path to redemption is fraught with trials, but you have persevered." I fell to my knees, overwhelmed by her presence. "Goddess Paris, I have sought your guidance for so long. I am haunted by my past and the darkness within me. How can I overcome this shadow that remains?" Paris extended a hand, her touch a balm to my troubled soul. "The darkness within you is not to be feared but understood. It is a part of your journey, a reminder of the path you have walked and the growth you have achieved. You no longer need to hate or fear the monster you once were. Embrace the lessons learned, and let them guide you toward your true self." Her words resonated deeply, a soothing melody that calmed the storm within me. The dark figure that had once embodied my fears seemed to falter, his presence diminishing in the light of Paris's wisdom. The church, now fully restored, felt like a sanctuary, a place where my past could be confronted and understood. As Paris's light enveloped me, I felt a sense of clarity and peace that I had never known before. The path ahead was still uncertain, but with the goddess's guidance, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. The nightmares that had once haunted me were now a testament to my growth, a reminder of the trials I had overcome. In the presence of Paris, I found the strength to face my past and the hope to move forward. The journey toward redemption was far from over, but with the goddess's wisdom and the lessons I had learned, I was ready to continue the path, guided by the light of Paris and the strength of my own resolve. And so, in the sacred hall of the restored church, I stood ready to embrace the future, a future shaped by the divine presence of Paris and the redemption that awaited beyond the shadows of my past. Part 5. The battle for the soul. The presence of Paris filled the restored church with an ethereal calm, her light casting away the shadows that had once plagued my soul. But as the goddess prepared to depart, a new challenge emerged, one that would test not only my physical strength, but the very essence of who I had become. The dark figure, my former self, stood defiantly in the center of the church, his presence a dark counterpoint to the divine light of Paris. His eyes burned with a malevolent fire, and his form seemed to pulse with an aura of dark magic. He was the embodiment of my deepest fears and regrets, a relentless reminder of the monster I had been. As Paris began to withdraw her divine presence, the light in the church dimmed, and the shadows grew longer. The dark figure moved forward, his steps echoing ominously in the now quiet hall. I stood my ground, my blade at the ready, fully aware that this battle would not only be fought with steel and magic, but with the very essence of my soul. The first clash came swiftly. The dark figure lunged at me with a ferocity that matched my own nightmares. His blade, forged from shadows, clashed with mine, sending sparks of dark energy cascading through the air. The force of his attack was immense, each strike carrying the weight of my past sins and failures. I countered with all the skill and resolve I had cultivated over the years. Each parry and strike was a reflection of the training and wisdom imparted by Paris. The battle was as much a struggle within as it was a physical confrontation. Every time our blades met, it felt like a clash of ideologies, my journey toward redemption against the remnants of my former darkness. Magic swirled around us, the dark figure summoning waves of shadowy energy that surged toward me. I responded with the divine light I had learned to harness, channeling the energy of Paris into protective barriers and counterattacks. The room became a tempest of light and dark, our magic weaving a complex tapestry of opposing forces. Amidst the chaos of battle, the dark figure spoke, his voice dripping with venomous sarcasm. "You think you can erase the past with a few noble deeds. You are still the monster who brought suffering to countless lives. Redemption is a lie." His words cut deep, dredging up the guilt and pain that I had worked so hard to overcome. But I did not let his taunts deter me. With every swing of my blade and every incantation of my magic, I reminded myself of the journey I had undertaken and the purpose that drove me forward. The dark figure's attacks grew more frantic, his desperation evident in the way he wielded his dark magic. He lashed out with unrestrained fury, seeking to overwhelm me with the very essence of my past. But each attack was met with a counter that reflected not only my physical prowess, but my inner strength. In the midst of the battle, I found myself grappling not only with the dark figure, but with the darkness within my own heart. The struggle was as much about reconciling with my past as it was about defeating the dark entity before me. Each moment of clarity and resolve chipped away at the darkness, revealing the path to true redemption. The turning point in the battle came when, amidst a particularly fierce exchange of blows, I saw a flicker of hesitation in the dark figure's eyes. It was a moment of vulnerability that mirrored the doubts and fears that had once plagued me. Seizing the opportunity, I focused my energy and delivered a decisive strike. The dark figure staggered, his form wavering as the light of my blade pierced through the shadows. The intensity of the battle reached its zenith, and with a final, resolute swing, I felt the dark presence dissolve into the ether. The church, once again, was filled with a sense of profound calm, the remnants of the darkness vanishing in the wake of my triumph. Breathing heavily, I looked around the now silent hall. The light of Paris had returned, casting a gentle glow over the restored church. The battle was over, but the echoes of the struggle lingered in the air. The confrontation had been as much a trial of the spirit as it was a physical battle, and I felt a sense of both exhaustion and relief. In the midst of the tranquil aftermath, Paris appeared once more, her presence a beacon of divine grace. She approached me, her gaze filled with approval and compassion. "You have faced the darkest part of yourself and emerged victorious," she said softly. "The battle for your soul was not just a clash of light and dark, but a journey of understanding and acceptance. You have proven that redemption is not a destination, but a continuous path." I bowed my head in gratitude, feeling a profound sense of peace wash over me. The struggle had been intense, but it had also been a necessary part of my journey. I had confronted my past, faced the monster within, and emerged stronger and more resolute. As Paris prepared to depart once more, I knew that the path ahead would still be challenging. Redemption was a journey that required ongoing effort and self-reflection. But with the goddess's guidance and the strength I had gained through the battle, I felt ready to continue the journey with a renewed sense of purpose. The battle for my soul had been a defining moment, one that had tested my resolve and illuminated the path to true redemption. and as the light of Paris faded gently into the distance, I stood ready to embrace the future, guided by the lessons learned and the strength gained through the trials of the heart and spirit. Part 6. The dawn of resolve. When I awoke, it was to the familiar, yet altered surroundings of the broken church. The first light of dawn filtered through the stained glass windows, casting colorful patterns across the floor. The room was serene, the echoes of the intense battle now a distant memory. But there was a profound sense of change. The blind priest, who had been my guide and mentor through my trials, was gone. In his place, on the altar where he had once stood, lay a powerful shield, a gleaming artifact of remarkable craftsmanship. It was intricately adorned with symbols that seemed to pulse with a subtle, divine energy. I approached the altar, reverence and curiosity intertwining in my heart. The shield, with its intricate patterns and radiant aura, felt like a gift from Paris, a symbol of her continued presence and support. I took it in my hands, feeling the weight of its power and the assurance it provided. Sitting down to reflect, I offered a prayer to Paris, thanking her for her guidance and for the strength to confront my inner darkness. My gratitude was deep, for the battle had been not just a struggle against a dark aspect of myself, but a profound journey toward understanding and redemption. Goddess Paris, I prayed, I am forever grateful for the strength and clarity you have given me. As I take up this shield, let it be a symbol of my commitment to your path of justice and redemption. Guide me as I continue to seek the light and confront the darkness that remains in this world. With my prayer spoken, I resolved to honor the gift of the shield by putting it to use in the next phase of my journey. My thoughts turned to Ginea, the golden dragon who had been both a guide and an ally. The battles I had fought were not the end. There were still great challenges ahead. The world of Unris was ruled by powerful magic masters, 3 formidable beings whose control over the land needed to be challenged. The journey to find Ginea took me through rugged terrain, the familiar paths of the northern mountains now a comfort rather than a challenge. As I neared her lair, I felt a renewed sense of purpose, the divine shield strapped securely to my back. Ginea welcomed me with her characteristic grace, her golden scales glinting in the sunlight. She sensed the change in me even before I spoke. "Coloso," she said, her voice carrying a note of curiosity and approval, "you have returned with a new presence. I can see that the trials you've faced have forged you into something stronger. What is it that you seek now?" I approached her with determination. "Ginea, I have faced the darkness within me and emerged with a newfound purpose. The battle was not just for my soul but a preparation for what lies ahead. There are 3 magic masters who rule over Unris, each wielding great power. My goal is to confront them, to challenge their rule, and to restore balance to the world." Ginea's eyes sparkled with interest. The magic masters are indeed formidable, each holding sway over their own domains. Their power is immense, but your resolve and newfound strength make you a worthy challenger. What is your plan? I spread out a map of Unris, marking the locations of the magic masters based on what I had learned in my travels and the information Ginea had shared. We need to approach this strategically. Each master has their own domain, each fortified with magical defenses and loyal followers. We must first gather intelligence, understand their strengths and weaknesses, and form alliances where possible. Ginea nodded thoughtfully. "It is a sound strategy. We will need to be cautious and prepared. The path will be fraught with danger, but your resolve and the shield from Paris will serve you well. I can provide guidance and support, but we must also seek allies who are discontent with the current regime." Our planning sessions were intense, filled with discussions on tactics, potential allies, and the resources we would need. Janaea's knowledge of the world and her own experience in dealing with powerful beings proved invaluable. We also began reaching out to those who might support our cause, dissidents, rebels, and others who sought to overthrow the oppressive rule of the magic masters. The shield from Imparis became a symbol of our cause, a representation of our commitment to justice and the fight against tyranny. With each passing day, our plans took shape, and the preparations for the imminent conflict became more defined. The journey ahead would be perilous, but I felt a renewed sense of purpose and determination. The battles we faced would not just be physical confrontations, but a struggle to restore balance and justice to the world of Unris. As I stood alongside Janaea, looking out over the land that would soon become the stage for our struggle, I felt a deep sense of resolve. The path to redemption was intertwined with the fight for justice, and with the support of my allies and the strength I had gained, I was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Part 6.5. The Masters of Magic. With the plan set in motion and the support of Janaea, I found myself faced with the formidable task of confronting the 4 magic masters who ruled over Unris. Each was a powerful entity in their own right, controlling different realms and wielding magic of immense power. The first and most personal of these was Master Eldrin, my deceased master. Though he had died, his influence persisted through his many lieutenants, who now controlled the lands he once ruled. The network of his loyal followers and the remnants of his dark empire were a formidable obstacle. They were skilled, ruthless, and well-equipped, having inherited Eldrin's dark magic and tactics. Next in the hierarchy was Thalion, the forest elf. Thalion's mastery lay in mind magic, a power that allowed him to control thoughts and perceptions. His control over the forested lands was absolute, using his abilities to manipulate and dominate the minds of those who dwelled there. His powers made him a subtle yet dangerous foe, capable of turning allies against each other or bending entire communities to his will. Variel was the tiefling sorcerer who came next in line. Known for his mastery over summoning and lightning, Variel was a cunning and formidable adversary. His domain was a place of perpetual storms, where he summoned monstrous entities and wielded lightning with devastating precision. His power was not just in his control over elemental forces, but also in his ability to summon creatures that wreaked havoc upon his enemies. Finally, there was Vesper, the Dracolic. Vesper's true name was unknown, and he was referred to only by his ominous title. As an undead dragon, Vesper's magical prowess was almost beyond comprehension. His necromantic abilities were unparalleled, allowing him to wield and manipulate nearly every form of magic. His control over the land was absolute, and his reign was marked by an overwhelming sense of dread and power. With these 4 masters of magic established, our strategy needed to be meticulous and multifaceted. Each of them posed a unique challenge, not only because of their individual powers, but also due to the way their realms were fortified and defended. Janaea and I began by mapping out our approach, considering each master's strengths and weaknesses. We discussed the best way to tackle Eldrin's lieutenants, the strategies to counter Thalion's mind magic, the preparations needed to face Variel's summoning and lightning, and the methods to confront Vesper, whose magical dominance was nearly absolute. The first step was to confront the lieutenants still ruling in Eldrin's name. These were formidable adversaries, each well-versed in the dark arts and fiercely loyal to their late master. Their hold over Eldrin's lands was strong, and they had fortified their positions with both magic and military might. We would need to dismantle their influence piece by piece, weakening their control and gaining support from those oppressed under their rule. As for Thalion, the forest elf, our plan involved stealth and deception. His ability to manipulate minds made direct confrontation dangerous. Instead, we would seek to infiltrate his domain, sowing seeds of discord and rallying those who opposed his rule. We would need to be careful to protect our own minds from his influence, while working to turn his subjects against him. Variel's realm of storms and summoned monsters posed a different kind of challenge. Our approach would involve disrupting his summoning rituals and seeking ways to neutralize the creatures he summoned. We would need to prepare for high-intensity battles and find ways to counteract his lightning-based attacks. Confronting Vesper, the Dracolic, would be the most daunting task of all. His power was immense, and his command over necromantic magic made him a nearly invincible foe. Our strategy would involve finding ways to weaken his magical hold and seeking allies who could help us in this final, crucial battle. The planning sessions with Gineia were intense, filled with discussions and strategies. Our resolve was firm, and the support of our allies began to grow. Each step we took was calculated, each decision weighed with the knowledge of the challenges ahead. As we prepared for the battles to come, I felt a sense of both trepidation and determination. The path to confronting the magic masters would be fraught with peril, but with Gineia's guidance and the strength I had gained, I was ready to face the trials ahead. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear. The journey to challenge the magic masters had begun, and with each step, we moved closer to restoring balance to the world of Unris. The battles would be fierce, but our resolve was unwavering and our purpose was clear. Part 7. Redemption through conquest. Entering Eldrin's lands was like walking into a tempest of resentment and fear. The very air seemed to bristle with hostility as I crossed the border into the domain once ruled by my late master. The people here remembered Coloso, me in my darkest days, the dark paladin who had served Eldrin and inflicted suffering upon them. The resentment was palpable, and their scorn was a heavy weight upon my shoulders. Despite the animosity, I had resolved to make my presence count for more than just a reminder of past horrors. My first task was to deal with the lieutenants still wielding Eldrin's dark power, and I knew that to achieve anything, I would need to address the immediate threats they posed to the oppressed populace. It wasn't long before I encountered the first of Eldrin's lieutenants, a man named Thorn, who had been a loyal enforcer of my former master's will. He was a formidable sorcerer in his own right, his magic a twisted remnant of Eldrin's dark teachings. Thorn had fortified himself in a grim, fortress-like keep, surrounded by an army of loyalists and dark creatures. But I was not alone in this endeavor. At my side was an adult gold dragon, Gineia, whose imposing presence and radiant power had become a symbol of hope and strength. The contrast between her majestic, golden scales and the bleak surroundings of Eldrin's lands was stark and striking. As we approached Thorn's keep, I could feel the weight of the people's distrust and fear. They watched from the shadows, their eyes filled with a mix of hope and apprehension. Some even whispered curses and threats, their voices carrying the pain of their past suffering. I bore their scorn with a heavy heart, knowing that redemption would not come easily. When we finally reached Thorn's keep, the battle was fierce. The dark sorcerer had prepared for us, and his fortress was a labyrinth of traps and dark magic. But Gineia's power, combined with my own newfound strength and the divine shield given to me by Imparis, made us a formidable pair. The fight was intense, with spells clashing and the keep's defenses falling under the weight of our assault. Thorn, though powerful, was not prepared for the sheer force of Gineia's golden fire and the precision of my attacks. We pressed on, pushing through the dark forces that sought to protect him. The final confrontation with Thorn was a clash of wills and magic. His dark spells sought to overwhelm us, but Jinia's radiance cut through the shadows, and my blade, guided by the divine light of Imperis, struck true. With a final, decisive blow, Thorn fell, his dark magic dissipating into the ether. As the battle ended, the people who had been cowering in fear began to emerge from their hiding places. The relief in their eyes was evident, but so was their lingering distrust. Many had known only suffering and darkness, and the presence of a figure like me, despite my intentions, was not immediately reassuring. Jinia's presence was a beacon of hope. Her golden scales glowed brightly, and her words of reassurance helped to calm the frightened populace. I used the opportunity to address them, explaining my journey and the reasons for my actions. I spoke of the redemption I sought, and the changes I wished to bring to the land. Slowly, the people began to come around. The fear that had initially greeted me was tempered by the realization that we had liberated them from Thorn's tyranny. Some were still wary, but many were willing to listen and see the changes that were being made. Despite the challenges and the ongoing distrust, the liberation of Thorn's domain was a significant step. The people, though scarred, began to see a glimmer of hope. They were not yet fully free from the shadows of their past, but with each step, the darkness receded, and a new chapter began to unfold. Jinia and I continued our journey through Eldrin's lands, working to free more of the oppressed and dismantle the remnants of the dark influence that lingered. The path to redemption was fraught with difficulty, but each victory, no matter how small, was a testament to the progress being made. As we moved forward, I carried the weight of my past with me, but I also carried the hope of a better future. The journey was far from over, and the path ahead would be challenging. But with Jinia's support and the strength gained from each battle, I was determined to face whatever lay ahead. The road to redemption was long and arduous, but each step taken was a step toward healing the wounds of the past and forging a new path for the future. The land of Unris was changing, and with each victory, we moved closer to the ultimate goal of restoring hope and justice to the world. Part 8. A new beginning. The liberation of Thorn's domain marked a turning point in our journey. The people, once oppressed and fearful, began to emerge from the shadows of their past suffering. The land, though scarred, was ripe with the potential for renewal. As we overran the last of Eldrin's 10 lieutenants, the people's hope grew, and with it, the desire to build a future free from darkness. The final push against the lieutenants had been swift and decisive. With each victory, the grip of Eldrin's dark legacy loosened, and the lands began to breathe once more. The people of the region, now freed from the chains of tyranny, faced the daunting task of rebuilding their lives and the once great city of Vrak. As I moved among the newly liberated, I was approached by many who wished to train under me. They sought to become followers of Imperis, to walk the path of redemption and justice that I had embarked upon. Their desire to learn and grow was a testament to the hope that had been rekindled in their hearts. Training these new followers was both a responsibility and an opportunity. I took it upon myself to teach them the ways of discipline, honor, and the teachings of Imperis. We began to establish a semblance of order and purpose among them, focusing on building a community that could not only defend itself, but also uphold the principles of justice and righteousness. The process of training was rigorous, but it was also deeply rewarding. These individuals, once victims of oppression, were now finding strength in their newfound purpose. They learned not just the art of combat, but also the values of compassion and leadership. The divine shield of Imperis, which I carried with me, became a symbol of their commitment and a source of inspiration. The city of Vrak, once a symbol of oppression, began to show signs of revival. The people worked tirelessly to rebuild their homes and restore their city to its former glory. The land around it, too, began to flourish as the shadows of tyranny receded. The scars of the past were still visible, but the promise of a brighter future was evident in the faces of those who labored for change. Yet, as we prepared to move on to the next stage of our journey, the challenge of facing the remaining magic masters loomed large. The people who had joined us, inspired by our cause and the progress we had made, expressed a desire to accompany us into the more dangerous battles that lay ahead. They were driven by a sense of purpose and a commitment to the path of justice we had forged. Their willingness to stay and fight alongside us was both a testament to their courage and a sign of the transformation that had taken place. They were no longer mere followers, but active participants in the quest for a better world. Their resolve to join us in confronting the remaining magic masters was a valuable asset and a source of strength. As we gathered to plan our next steps, I felt a deep sense of responsibility and pride. The journey had begun with a quest for redemption and had grown into a movement for justice and restoration. The path ahead would be fraught with challenges, but the support of our new allies and the strength we had gained gave me confidence. With the city of Vrak beginning its resurgence, and the new followers of Paris ready to stand beside us, our next move was clear. We would continue to confront the remaining magic masters, each one presenting its own unique challenges and threats. The journey would be arduous, but the progress we had made and the support we had garnered were powerful motivators. As we prepared to leave Vrak behind, I took a moment to reflect on the journey so far. The battles fought, the people freed, and the new beginnings forged were all part of a larger tapestry of change. The path to redemption and justice was far from over, but with each step, we moved closer to our goal. The world of Unris was changing, and the fight against the remaining magic masters would be the next chapter in our quest for a better future. With the strength of our new followers and the guidance of Paris, we were ready to face the challenges ahead and continue our journey toward restoring balance and justice to the land. Part 8.5. The light of hope. As the city of Vrak began to rebuild and the lands around it flourished, a profound sense of hope and renewal filled the air. The feeling was almost tangible, a collective exhale from a people who had long been oppressed, finally finding the space to breathe and dream of a better future. This sense of hope was not just a fleeting emotion but a deep, abiding light that seemed to permeate everything around us. In the quiet moments of reflection, I felt the weight of my journey lift, replaced by a profound sense of peace and purpose. The path I had forged, though fraught with challenges, was proving to be the right one. The transformation I had witnessed in the people of Vrak and the surrounding lands reaffirmed that the quest for redemption and justice was not in vain. My deeper feelings of fulfillment and the clarity of my mission were further illuminated by a vivid dream bestowed upon me by Paris. In the dream, I found myself standing in a serene, ethereal realm bathed in a golden light. The landscape was a blend of divine beauty and tranquility, with lush fields, crystal-clear waters, and an endless sky that seemed to stretch beyond the horizon. In this dream, Paris appeared before me in her radiant form. Her presence was awe-inspiring, and her divine light seemed to envelop everything around us. She spoke with a voice that was both gentle and powerful, resonating with the authority of the heavens. "Coloso," she said, "you have walked a path of great trial and transformation. The journey you have undertaken, though fraught with darkness and difficulty, has brought light and hope to those who once knew only despair. The path you have forged is a testament to the power of redemption and the strength of your resolve." As she spoke, I felt a profound sense of connection and understanding. The trials I had faced, the battles fought, and the redemption sought had all led to this moment of clarity. Paris's words were not just a confirmation of my journey but a source of deep reassurance. "You have not only found your own path to redemption, but have also become a beacon of hope for others," she continued. "The light you carry, the hope you inspire, and the justice you seek are all part of a greater purpose. The world of unrest is in need of the light you bring, and the path ahead will continue to be challenging. But remember that the light of hope and love you have kindled will guide you through the darkness." The dream was more than just a vision. It was a profound affirmation of the journey I had undertaken. It was a reminder that the struggles and sacrifices had a purpose, that the path I had chosen was not only right but necessary. The deeper sense of fulfillment I felt was not just a result of the external changes, but also of the internal transformation that had taken place. As I awoke from the dream, I carried with me a renewed sense of purpose and determination. The light of hope and the divine guidance from Paris had solidified my resolve. The journey was far from over, and the battles against the remaining magic masters awaited. But with the affirmation of my path and the support of those around me, I was ready to face whatever lay ahead. The world of unrest was changing, and the path to redemption and justice was becoming clearer with each step. The dream had shown me that the light we carried, both within and around us, was a powerful force for change. And with that light as our guide, we would continue to forge ahead, undaunted and determined, toward the future we sought to build. Part 8.8. Allies in the fight with the liberation of Vrak and the surrounding lands. The momentum of our campaign had attracted the attention and support of other deities and their followers. Though their power was not as formidable as that of the magic masters we faced, their aid was invaluable. The support of these divine beings brought renewed hope and strength to our cause. Anvil, the god of crafting, sent his followers, skilled artisans and smiths who had come to aid us in our quest. They provided us with weapons, armor, and tools forged with divine craftsmanship. Their contributions were not just practical but also symbolic, representing the divine support for our cause. Their gear was renowned for its strength and durability, a testament to Anvil's influence. Bravel, the goddess of friendship, justice, and charity, also extended her support. Her followers brought with them a sense of compassion and unity, helping to bridge the gaps between the liberated people and our growing force. They worked tirelessly to build alliances, offer aid to those in need, and spread the message of justice and hope. As we prepared to confront Thalion in the east, the presence of Anvil's followers and Bravel's supporters bolstered our ranks. However, the challenge of facing Thalion's mind magic was formidable. His control over thoughts and perceptions made our advance increasingly difficult. Each step forward seemed to unravel further layers of his defenses, revealing the depth of his power and the intricacies of his magical manipulations. Thalion's mind magic was not just a passive defense, but an active and aggressive force. It twisted perceptions, altered memories, and created illusions that were almost impossible to discern from reality. As we approached his stronghold, we encountered several individuals who had been driven to madness by his manipulations. They were not merely adversaries, but tragic victims of Thalion's cruel control. The battles we faced were not only against Thalion's minions, but also against the very fabric of his mind magic. The psychological toll on our forces was immense. We had to make difficult decisions, including the tragic necessity of ending the lives of those who had been too far gone. their minds irreparably twisted by Thalion's influence. Amidst these challenges, the divine support we received proved to be both a boon and a burden. The gear and weapons crafted by Anvil's followers were formidable, but in one critical battle, the divine gear was tested to its limits. As Thalion focused his mind magic on our forces, the enchanted gear became strained. In the heat of battle, Anvil's divine craftsmanship faltered under the relentless assault of Thalion's magic. In a pivotal moment, we found ourselves face to face with Thalion, his power palpable and his mind magic a swirling vortex of confusion and despair. The divine gear we relied on was shattered, and the battlefield became a chaotic and brutal arena. The loss was significant. Many of our best gear and enchanted items were rendered useless, and the morale of our forces suffered. Despite these setbacks, our resolve remained unshaken. Thalion's mind magic had proven to be a formidable challenge, but we pressed on, driven by the support of our divine allies and the courage of our own hearts. The struggle against Thalion was not just a physical battle, but a mental and emotional one as well. As we continued to fight through the labyrinth of Thalion's mind magic, the presence of Anvil's followers and Bravel's supporters provided critical assistance. They worked to counteract the effects of Thalion's magic, offering support and clarity in the midst of the chaos. Their efforts were a reminder that even in the darkest of battles, divine aid and the strength of unity could make a difference. The battle against Thalion was far from over, and the challenges we faced were immense. But with each step forward, we grew stronger, more determined, and more united. The support of Anvil and Bravel, along with the resilience of our own forces, was a testament to the power of collaboration and the strength found in divine and mortal alliances. The fight was taking its toll, but the light of hope and the promise of redemption continued to guide us. We moved forward, undeterred by the difficulties, ready to face whatever lay ahead in our quest to challenge the remaining magic masters and restore balance to the world of Unris. Part 9. The aftermath of despair. The aftermath of our confrontation with Thalion was a scene of unimaginable devastation. Janana and I were the only ones left standing amidst the carnage. Our allies, brave men and women who had joined us in our quest for justice, were now lifeless forms strewn across the battlefield. The sight was almost too much to bear. Thalion's mind magic had not required an army of guards or minions. His power lay in his ability to control and manipulate anyone who ventured too close. The clash of powers during our battle had been a maelstrom of mental and magical assaults, leaving many of our comrades driven to madness or forced to take their own lives. Those who tried to defend themselves were overwhelmed by the relentless assault of Thalion's magic. As I walked among the fallen, the weight of their sacrifice pressed heavily upon my heart. Each body was a stark reminder of the cost of our mission and the ruthless power we were up against. The faces of those who had fought alongside us, now forever stilled, filled me with a deep sense of sorrow and guilt. Janana stood silently beside me, her golden scales gleaming with a somber light. She understood my grief and allowed me the time I needed to come to terms with the magnitude of our loss. Her presence was a comforting anchor amidst the sea of despair that threatened to engulf me. Thalion's lair, a place once teeming with the echoes of his malevolent influence, was now eerily silent. Janana and I knew that we could not leave without ensuring that Thalion's dark legacy would not continue to harm others. His knowledge of the 11 spheres of magic was too dangerous to remain intact. Coloso, Janana's voice broke the silence, filled with a gentle but firm resolve. We must ensure that Thalion's writings and his dark knowledge are destroyed. We cannot allow his twisted magic to survive and be used by others. She was right. Thalion's understanding of the 11 spheres was a source of immense power, and in the wrong hands, it could cause untold destruction. Together, we searched through his lair, gathering every scroll, book, and artifact that contained his knowledge and spells. The task was both painstaking and emotionally draining. Each piece of parchment we collected was a reminder of the power we had fought against and the lives that had been lost in the process. But it was a necessary burden, one we had to bear to ensure a safer future. With the final collection of Thalion's writings in hand, Janana unleashed her fiery breath, turning the dark knowledge into ashes. The flames consumed the records of Thalion's magic, the crackling fire a purifying force that symbolized the end of his influence. As the last of Thalion's works turned to ash, I felt a mixture of relief and sorrow. The immediate threat had been neutralized, but the cost had been devastating. The silence that followed was both a mourning and a testament to the resilience of those who had fallen. "We've done what we could," Janana said softly, her eyes reflecting the sorrow I felt. "Their sacrifice will not be in vain. We will carry their memory with us and continue our fight." I nodded, the resolve in her words resonating deeply within me. The journey ahead was still fraught with challenges, but the memory of our fallen comrades would drive us forward. Their sacrifice would be the foundation upon which we built our future victories. As we left Thalion's lair behind, the weight of our loss hung heavy, but so did the determination to see our mission through. The battle for redemption and justice in Unris was far from over, and the next magic master awaited. With Janana by my side and the strength of our fallen allies in my heart, we would continue our journey, undeterred and unyielding. The path ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear. We would not stop until the remaining magic masters were defeated and balance was restored to the world of Unris. Our fight was not just for us, but for all those who had suffered and sacrificed along the way. Part 9.5. A bargain with death. As Janana and I moved away from the smoldering remnants of Thalion's lair, a chilling presence descended upon us. The air grew cold, and the shadows deepened unnaturally. Out of the darkness stepped figures cloaked in symbols of death, the Yuan-Tai servants of Skingrad, the god of death. The Yuan-Tai surrounded us, their eyes glowing with an eerie light as they forced us to our knees. I felt a sense of dread and awe as Skingrad himself emerged from the void, his form a towering silhouette against the darkness. "Coloso, Janana," Skingrad's voice echoed, deep and resonant, carrying the weight of the grave. "You have fought bravely, but the loss you have endured is immense. I can offer you a chance to bring some of your fallen allies back." His proposition hung in the air like a double-edged sword. The cost of such a gift from the god of death would undoubtedly be steep. Skingrad continued, his gaze piercing into our very souls. "For a price, I will distribute the years of life among those you wish to resurrect. But you must be willing to sacrifice your own years in exchange." Janana and I exchanged a look, the gravity of the decision evident in our eyes. The opportunity to bring back those who had sacrificed everything was tantalizing, but it meant giving up a portion of our own lives. "I will give up 360 years, Janana said, her voice steady and resolute. Her longevity as a dragon made such a sacrifice significant but not fatal. "And I will give up 15 years, I added, my heart heavy but my resolve firm. The lives of our allies were worth the sacrifice. Skingrad nodded, a cold smile playing at the corners of his lips. "Very well, your sacrifice is accepted." He stepped back into the void, his presence pulling at the fabric of reality itself. As he disappeared, his final words resonated in my mind, pushing me to my knees once more. These 10 Yuan Tai will stay and assist you. I want the remaining magic masters dead. Let them understand that playing with the cycle of death is no longer without consequence. The Yuan Tai servants, now our reluctant allies, stood ready to assist us. Their presence was a constant reminder of the pact we had made and the price we had paid. As we regrouped and planned our next steps, the weight of our decision lingered. The resurrection of our fallen comrades was a bittersweet miracle. Those who returned were forever changed by their brush with death, their eyes holding a deeper understanding of the fragility of life and the power of sacrifice. They rejoined our ranks with a renewed sense of purpose, their presence a testament to the lengths we would go to for our cause. With the added strength of the resurrected and the reluctant assistance of the Yuan Tai, we set our sights on the next challenge. Thalion's defeat had come at a great cost, but the journey ahead would require even greater resolve. As we prepared to move forward, the words of Skingrad echoed in my mind. The remaining magic masters were now more than just adversaries. They were symbols of a power that sought to disrupt the natural order. Our mission was not just to defeat them, but to restore balance and ensure that the cycles of life and death remained undisturbed. The path was fraught with peril, but with the memories of our fallen comrades guiding us and the divine support of Imperis, we would face whatever lay ahead. The world of unrisk depended on our success, and failure was not an option. Part 10. Regrouping and revelations. Back in the newly reborn city of Vrak, the atmosphere was one of cautious optimism. The city's reconstruction was underway, and the people were beginning to rebuild their lives and their hope. Amidst this fragile resurgence, Janana and I had a moment to reflect and regroup, our thoughts heavy with the weight of the battles fought and the decisions made. One evening, as we discussed our next steps, Janana revealed a significant detail about her past that had remained unspoken. She spoke of her devotion to Bahamut, the platinum dragon deity of justice and protection. This revelation was both a surprise and a beacon of hope. "I have worshipped Bahamut for centuries," Janana confessed. "My allegiance to him has guided my actions and given me strength. His principles of justice and protection are aligned with our cause, and I have called upon his aid." This revelation carried weight beyond the mere act of worship. It meant that Janana's commitment to our mission was reinforced by a divine purpose that extended beyond her own will. Her connection to Bahamut had not only given her strength, but also forged a bond that could attract additional support. As if on cue, word came that a few dragons, loyal to Bahamut and driven by a sense of justice, were preparing to return to Unris. Their arrival was expected to bolster our ranks significantly. Their might and experience would be invaluable in the battles ahead, and their divine allegiance would provide a much-needed boost in our struggle against the remaining magic masters. However, our hope was tempered by a sobering reality. The aid from Anvil's and Bravel's followers, while significant, was temporary. Their divine energy had limitations, and once their time was up, they would vanish from this world simultaneously. The thought of losing such crucial allies weighed heavily on me, and I knew we had to make the most of their remaining time. As I prepared for the next phase of our mission, I sought solace and guidance from Imperis. Alone in a quiet corner of the city, I knelt in prayer, seeking divine counsel and strength. "Imperis," I whispered, my voice filled with both reverence and desperation. "We have faced great loss and made great sacrifices. The aid of Anvil's and Bravel's followers has been a blessing, but their time is running short. We must face the remaining magic masters, and their support is crucial." Guide us through this time of uncertainty, and grant us the strength to honor the sacrifices made by our allies. In the stillness of the prayer, I felt a presence, an aura of warmth and assurance that seemed to envelop me. Imperis's divine light touched my soul, offering comfort and clarity. Her guidance was a reminder of the purpose behind our struggle and the strength that came from unwavering faith. With renewed determination, I returned to the task at hand. The dragons loyal to Bahamut were soon to arrive, and their arrival would mark a pivotal moment in our fight. We needed to prepare for their integration into our forces and coordinate our strategies for the battles to come. The temporary nature of our divine allies' support only added to the urgency of our mission. We had to strike decisively against the remaining magic masters, making every effort count and leveraging the strength and wisdom of our allies while we could. As Vrak continued to rebuild and the dragons prepared to join us, I felt a sense of hope and urgency intertwine. Our cause was just, our allies were strong, and our resolve was unbreakable. The path ahead would be fraught with challenges, but with the divine guidance of Imperis and the support of our new and temporary allies, we were ready to face whatever lay ahead. The battle for Unris was far from over, but we were prepared to fight with everything we had. The journey continued, and our mission was clear: to defeat the remaining magic masters, restore balance, and honor the sacrifices of those who had given everything for our cause. Part 11. The Western Isles. The time had come to turn our focus to Variel, the Tiefling master of summoning and lightning. His domain, the Western Isles, was renowned not just for its strategic importance, but also for its treacherous and deadly landscape. As we prepared to set sail for these perilous shores, I found myself reflecting on the journey so far and the allies who had joined us. Our small fleet was assembled at the docks of Vrak, ready to embark on the journey to the Western Isles. I had spent days coordinating with our temporary allies and preparing the ships. Each task was a reminder of the enormity of the challenge ahead and the people who would be facing it with me. Among the individuals aiding us were Alara, a sharp-minded mage with a deep knowledge of elemental magic, and Thorn, a skilled warrior with a gruff exterior but a heart of gold. Both had come from the ranks of Bravel's followers and had pledged their support in our struggle against the magic masters. Alara, with her raven-black hair and piercing green eyes, had quickly proven to be a valuable asset. Her understanding of elemental forces complemented our strategic needs, and her calm demeanor was a stabilizing presence in the midst of our preparations. She had an air of quiet confidence, and her ability to analyze magical barriers and traps was critical as we planned our approach to Variel's lair. Thorn, on the other hand, was a more rugged figure. His weathered face and battle-worn armor spoke of countless battles fought and survived. He had a rough manner but a genuine loyalty that made him reliable in the heat of combat. His strength and combat skills were an asset in both the planning and execution of our missions, and his presence was a reminder of the sacrifices made by those who fought alongside us. Working with Alara and Thorn, I had come to appreciate their unique contributions and the camaraderie that had developed among us. Each member of our team brought something essential to the table, and their dedication to our cause had forged a bond of mutual respect and trust. As we prepared the boat for departure, I took a moment to speak with Alara and Thorn, seeking their input on our strategy and plans for the journey. "Alara," I said as we reviewed the magical wards we'd need to protect the ship, "your knowledge will be crucial in navigating the magical dangers of the Western Isles. Do you foresee any specific challenges we might face?" Alara's gaze was thoughtful as she examined the wards. The Western Isles are notorious for their volatile magical environment. Varial's influence will create unpredictable surges of energy. We'll need to stay vigilant and adapt quickly to any changes. My wards should help, but be prepared for sudden magical anomalies. I nodded, appreciating her insights. And Thorn, I turned to the warrior, how do you feel about the potential combat scenarios we might face? Thorn's expression was grim but resolute. Varial's domain will be a fierce battleground. We'll encounter not only his minions but also the hazards of the isle itself. My blade is ready, and I'll make sure we hold the line. The preparations were nearly complete, and the crew was assembling, ready for the journey. As we prepared to set sail, I took a moment to reflect on the challenges we faced and the allies who had chosen to stand by me. Working with Alara and Thorn had been a grounding experience. Despite the weight of our mission, their unwavering support and expertise provided a sense of reassurance. I was deeply aware of the sacrifices and risks involved, but their presence reminded me that we were not alone in this struggle. As we embarked on the journey to the Western Isles, the sky above was a mix of brooding clouds and fleeting rays of sunlight. The sea was restless, mirroring the uncertainty of the challenge that lay ahead. The voyage would be long and arduous, but with Alara's magical expertise and Thorn's combat prowess, we were prepared to face whatever dangers awaited us. Our mission to confront Varial was more than just a battle. It was a test of our resolve and the strength of our alliances. As the ship cut through the waves, I felt a renewed sense of purpose and determination. We were on the brink of a new chapter in our journey, and with the support of those around me, I was ready to face the challenges of the Western Isles and the formidable Tiefling Master. Part 35. The despair of war. The war had raged far longer than I had ever imagined. Vesper, the Dracolic, seemed an unstoppable force, growing in power with each passing day. The death toll was staggering. 6,000 more had fallen, their lives consumed by the relentless onslaught. Desperation hung heavy in the air, and the weight of responsibility pressed down on my shoulders like an iron shroud. All eyes were on me, seeking guidance, seeking hope. Vesper's power was unlike anything I had ever encountered. His mastery of necromancy, his ability to command legions of undead, and his near-omnipotent grasp of dark magic made him a formidable adversary. Each battle felt like a step backward, each victory a Pyrrhic one, and the war's fallout brought memories of the darkest days of my past, when I was a monster in everyone's eyes. The people were losing hope. The weariness of war, the endless losses, and the seemingly invincible enemy took their toll. Yet, amidst this despair, a remarkable thing happened. The gods' followers from all corners of Unris rallied to our cause. Bruma, Cheydinhal, Choral, every group of warriors, every tribe, and every cotter of spellcasters joined us. Their belief in our mission, their faith in our fight against the darkness, was a beacon of hope in these dark times. But the sheer numbers, 12,000 men and women, felt like a drop in the ocean when faced with Vesper's overwhelming power. The Dracolic had become a dark legend, a symbol of death and destruction that seemed beyond our ability to defeat. In the quiet moments away from the battlefield, I felt the burden of command keenly. I remembered the faces of those who had fallen, the comrades lost, the dreams shattered. The memories of my past, the blood on my hands, resurfaced with a vengeance. I was no stranger to despair, but the weight of this war was almost too much to bear. In one such moment, I found myself in the war room, poring over maps and strategies, my mind a storm of doubts and fears. Janana, my constant companion and steadfast ally, entered silently, her golden scales reflecting the flickering candlelight. She could sense my turmoil, my struggle. "Coloso," she said softly, her voice a soothing balm. "We are not alone in this fight. The gods have not abandoned us. Their followers have joined us because they believe in our cause. We must find strength in their faith, in their hope." Her words, though comforting, did little to ease the gnawing doubt in my heart. "Janana, how do we fight something that grows stronger with each passing day? How do we win against an enemy that seems invincible?" Janana's eyes, wise and ancient, held mine. "By remembering why we fight, by holding on to the hope that others have placed in us. Vesper may be powerful, but he is not invincible. We have faced impossible odds before, and we will do so again. The key is to find his weakness, to strike where he is vulnerable." Her conviction rekindled a spark within me. The memories of our past victories, the battles won against overwhelming odds, resurfaced. I remembered the lessons learned, the strength forged in the fires of struggle. Vesper was powerful, but he was not a god. He had weaknesses, vulnerabilities that we had yet to uncover. As I looked at the gathered forces, the diverse array of warriors and spellcasters, I realized that our strength lay not just in numbers but in unity. Each group, each individual brought something unique to the fight. We needed to harness that diversity, to find a way to turn our collective strengths into a weapon against Vesper. I stood, drawing strength from Janana's unwavering faith. "We will find a way," I said, my voice firm. "We will uncover Vesper's weaknesses and use them against him. We have faced darkness before, and we will do so again. We fight not just for ourselves, but for all of Unris. Together, we will prevail." The journey ahead was daunting. The battles yet to be fought would be fierce. But hope, however fragile, burned brightly in the hearts of those who fought beside me. With Janana by my side and the support of the gods' followers, we would face Vesper and find a way to turn the tide of this war. The path to victory was uncertain, but one thing was clear. We would not give up, we would not surrender. The fight for Unris, for its people and its future, would continue, and together we would strive to overcome the darkness. Part 44. A storm of dragons. I had never imagined such a storm would descend upon us. The sky was alive with the beating of massive wings as 30 ancient dragons, called forth by Janana's plea to Bahamut, rose to confront Vesper. Their scales shimmered with ancient magic. Their roars echoed through the heavens, and for a fleeting moment, hope surged through our ranks. But Vesper, ever cunning and relentless, had anticipated this. He launched a ferocious attack, commanding his dark and undead minions with a ruthlessness that left us reeling. The clash between the dragons and the Dracolic was cataclysmic. The sky itself seemed to crack and shatter under the sheer force of their battle. From the ground, I watched in horror and awe as the dragons engaged Vesper in a deadly dance of fire and lightning. Janana led the charge, her golden scales shining brightly as she fought with every ounce of her strength. The dragons fought valiantly, their ancient power clashing against Vesper's dark magic. But despite their might, they could only wound him, not bring him down. One by one, the dragons fell. Their majestic forms, symbols of power and hope, were torn apart by Vesper's relentless assault. The ground shook with the force of their deaths, and each fallen dragon was a blow to our morale. Janana, though grievously injured, fought on, her defiance a beacon in the storm. On the ground, our forces struggled. Vesper's undead minions, driven by his dark will, pushed us back. We were losing ground rapidly, our lines breaking under the onslaught. I fought alongside my comrades, my blade cutting through the hordes of undead, but it felt like trying to hold back a tidal wave with a sword. "Hold the line," I shouted, my voice hoarse from the battle. "Do not let them break through." Alara and Thorn fought fiercely beside me. Alara's spells crackled with raw power, her elemental magic a crucial force against the undead. Thorn's blade was a whirlwind of death, his strength a bulwark against the tide. Yet, despite our efforts, it was clear we were being overwhelmed. I glanced skyward, seeing Janana locked in a desperate struggle with Vesper. Her roars of defiance echoed through the battlefield, but I could see her strength waning. Blood streamed from countless wounds, her golden scales marred by the fight. The battle raged on, each moment stretching into an eternity. The clash of steel, the roar of magic, and the screams of the dying filled the air. Despite our best efforts, it was clear we were losing. Despair began to creep into my heart, the weight of the situation pressing down on me like a suffocating fog. In the midst of the chaos, I felt a sudden surge of determination. I couldn't let this be our end. I couldn't let Vesper's darkness extinguish the light we had fought so hard to rekindle. "Janana," I called out, my voice carrying across the battlefield. "We need you." With a final, desperate roar, Janana disengaged from Vesper and swooped down towards us. Her landing shook the earth, and she let out a roar that seemed to rally our faltering forces. Despite her grievous wounds, her presence reignited our resolve. "Fall back to the second line," I commanded, using the brief respite Janana provided to reorganize our troops. "We must regroup and hold our ground." Our forces, battered and bloodied, began to retreat in a controlled manner, forming a new defensive line. The storm of dragons had passed, leaving only Janana standing, her body a testament to the ferocity of the battle. The loss of the other dragons was a heavy blow, their sacrifice a reminder of the cost of our fight. As we regrouped, I knew we had to find a new strategy. Vesper's power was overwhelming and his minions relentless. But we had survived this far, and as long as we drew breath, we would continue to fight. Janana, her breath ragged and her body battered, looked at me with fierce determination. "We will find a way, Coloso. We cannot let Vesper's darkness prevail." Her words, though filled with pain, were a spark of hope. The battle was far from over, and the road ahead was filled with challenges, but we would not give up. Together, we would find a way to defeat Vesper and bring light back to Unris. Part 44.5. The fall of Vrak, the retreat was chaos. Vesper's forces pressed us hard, unrelenting in their pursuit. Despite Janana's valiant efforts and the strength of our remaining forces, we were overwhelmed. The once great city of Vrak, our bastion of hope, was falling. "Fall back," I shouted, my voice barely carrying over the din of battle. "We must retreat to the boats." Alara and Thorn were at my side, their faces grim. We fought our way through the streets, the undead closing in around us. Everywhere I looked, I saw the devastation Vesper had wrought. Buildings crumbled, fires raged, and the bodies of fallen comrades littered the ground. Janana, despite her grievous wounds, provided cover as best she could. Her powerful wings beat against the air, creating gusts that slowed the advancing hordes. She roared, a sound filled with both fury and pain, and unleashed torrents of fire that held the undead at bay. But it wasn't enough. The enemy was too many, and our losses too great. We reached the docks, where the remaining boats awaited us. The plan to retreat to the Western Isles was our only hope of regrouping and finding a new strategy. The boats were already filling with wounded soldiers and civilians, their faces etched with fear and despair. "Get on board," I urged, helping Alara and Thorn onto one of the vessels. "We need to leave now." As I turned to help others, a massive explosion rocked the docks. Vesper's dark magic was relentless, tearing through our defenses. I saw comrades fall, their screams mingling with the roar of the undead. "Coloso," Janana's voice cut through the chaos. "We must go now." With a heavy heart, I climbed aboard the boat. Janana took to the air once more, her massive form providing cover for our retreat. The boats pushed off from the docks, the water churning as we sped away from the burning city. I looked back, my heart aching. Vrak, the city we had fought so hard to protect, was lost. Vesper's forces swarmed over the ruins, a dark tide that consumed everything in its path. The sight was a dagger to my soul. As we sailed away, the reality of our situation sank in. We had lost Vrak, our stronghold, and many of our comrades. The Western Isles were our last refuge, a place to regroup and plan our next move. The journey was somber. Silence filled the boats, broken only by the occasional sob or moan of the wounded. I moved among them, offering what comfort I could, but my own heart was heavy with guilt and sorrow. Elara and Thorn were silent, their expressions reflecting the same pain I felt. Janana, exhausted and wounded, flew close to the boats, her presence a reminder of the sacrifices we had made. As the sun set, casting a blood-red glow over the sea, I stood at the bow of the boat, looking towards the distant horizon. The Western Isles awaited us, but the road ahead was uncertain. Vesper's power was growing, and the challenge before us seemed insurmountable. But we had no choice. We would regroup, find new allies, and continue the fight. Vesper had taken much from us, but he had not taken our will to resist. The storm was far from over, and as long as there was breath in our bodies, we would continue to fight for the future of Unris. Part 50. The final play. As I prepared for what I knew would be my last battle, a profound sense of weariness settled over me. The weight of the years, the endless fighting, and the burden of leadership had taken their toll. I was not the same man I had been when this war began. The scars, both visible and invisible, were a testament to the long, brutal struggle against Vesper. The encampment was a somber place, the air thick with anticipation and dread. Our forces had been reduced to a fraction of what they once were, and those who remained were worn and battle-hardened. Yet, despite the fatigue and the losses, there was a steely determination in the eyes of every soldier, spellcaster, and ally. They knew this was our last chance, our final play to end the nightmare that Vesper had unleashed upon Unris. I stood at the edge of the camp, looking out over the battlefield where we would soon make our stand. The landscape was barren, scarred by the countless battles that had been fought here. The sky was a dark, ominous gray, as if reflecting the gravity of the moment. In the distance, the silhouette of Vesper's fortress loomed, a dark citadel of necromantic power. Janana approached, her golden scales dulled by the many wounds she had sustained in our journey. Her eyes, however, were as fierce and determined as ever. She had been my constant companion, my steadfast ally, and my friend. The thought of what lay ahead pained me deeply, but I could not let her see my doubt. "Coloso," she said softly, her voice a mix of concern and resolve, "the troops are ready. We've found Vesper's weakness, thanks to your relentless pursuit of the truth. We can do this." I nodded, forcing a smile. "Yes, we can. His metal claw is the key. It's the source of his power, the conduit through which he draws in souls and amplifies his magic. If we can destroy it, we have a chance to bring him down." Janana's eyes narrowed with determination. "I'll tear it from his body myself if I have to." I placed a hand on her foreleg, feeling the rough texture of her scales. "You will have your chance, Janana, but we need to be careful. Vesper is cunning, and he will protect that claw with everything he has." As I spoke, a plan was forming in my mind, a plan I could not share with her. I would be the distraction, the bait. I would draw Vesper's attention, knowing full well that it would likely be my end. But in that moment, I would give Janana the opening she needed to strike. I spent the rest of the day moving among our forces, offering words of encouragement and thanks. Each face I saw reminded me of the sacrifices that had been made, the lives that had been lost. The bonds forged in battle were unbreakable, and I felt a deep sense of gratitude for each and every one of them. Ilara and Thorn approached me, their expressions grave. "Are you ready for this, Coloso?" Ilara asked, her voice tinged with worry. I met her gaze, nodding. "As ready as I'll ever be. We've come too far to turn back now." Thorn placed a hand on my shoulder, his grip firm. "We'll see this through together." Night fell and the camp grew quiet. I found a secluded spot and knelt, praying to Imparis. I asked for strength, for guidance, and for the courage to face what lay ahead. I prayed for my friends, for Janana, and for the future of Unris. As I rose, a sense of calm washed over me. The fear and doubt were still there, but they were tempered by a resolve that had been forged in the fires of countless battles. I would do what needed to be done, no matter the cost. I returned to the campfire where Janana waited, her massive form casting a long shadow in the flickering light. "It's time," I said quietly. She nodded, and we shared a moment of silence, a silent acknowledgement of the bond we shared and the battle we were about to face. As we moved out, leading our forces toward Vesper's fortress, I took one last look at the faces around me. These were my comrades, my friends, and my family. I would fight for them, and I would give everything I had to ensure their future. The final battle awaited, and I was ready to face it. Goodbye, Unris. Draconic, Part 1. Janana's Farewell. The battlefield lay in ruins, the aftermath of our final stand against Vesper. The dark citadel, once a looming symbol of Vesper's power, was now a crumbled husk. The air was thick with the acrid smell of smoke and the bitter tang of blood. Among the debris and fallen soldiers, I found Coloso's lifeless body, his final act of sacrifice evident in the stillness of his form. I felt a rush of emotions, sorrow, anger, and a deep, burning sense of betrayal. Coloso had used his own soul to weaken Vesper, giving me the opening I needed to strike the fatal blow. He had made the ultimate sacrifice, and I was left to bear the weight of his decision. "Coloso," I whispered, my voice choked with grief. "Why did you do this? Why did you leave me to fight alone?" I knew why he had done it. I knew that his sacrifice was the only way to ensure Vesper's defeat. But knowing didn't lessen the pain. It didn't quell the rage that bubbled up inside me, threatening to consume me. I let out a roar, a sound that echoed across the battlefield and into the ruins of the citadel. It was a roar of anger, of loss, and of defiance. The soldiers around me fell silent, their eyes wide with shock and fear. They had never seen me like this, had never seen the fury of a dragon unleashed. "You stubborn, foolish man," I shouted, my voice carrying on the wind. "Why couldn't you trust me to find another way? Why did you have to leave me?" My rage was a fire that burned in my chest, a fire that I could not quench. I had fought alongside Coloso, had believed in him, and had trusted him with my life. And now he was gone, his life extinguished in a final, desperate act of heroism. I looked around at the faces of our comrades, at the survivors who had fought so bravely. They were looking to me for guidance, for leadership. But in that moment, all I could feel was the loss of my friend, my companion. I took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm inside me. I knew I couldn't let my anger control me. Coloso had given his life so that we could have a future, and I owed it to him to honor that sacrifice. I knelt beside his body, placing a gentle hand on his chest. "Goodbye, Coloso," I whispered, my voice trembling. "You were a true warrior, a true friend. I will carry your memory with me always." As I rose, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. Coloso had believed in our cause, had believed in the future of Unris. I would not let his sacrifice be in vain. I would continue to fight, to lead, and to protect those who could not protect themselves. Turning to our gathered forces, I saw the pain and uncertainty in their eyes. They had lost a leader, a symbol of hope, but I would be that symbol now. I would carry the torch that Coloso had passed on, and I would lead them to a future where Vesper's darkness was no more. Coloso's sacrifice was not in vain, I said, my voice strong and unwavering. He gave his life so that we could defeat Vesper, so that we could have a future. We will honor his memory by continuing to fight, by rebuilding what was lost, and by ensuring that his legacy lives on. As I spoke, I felt the anger within me transform into a fierce determination. Coloso had given me the strength to carry on, had shown me the power of sacrifice and the importance of hope. I would not let his death be the end of our story. It would be the beginning of a new chapter, a chapter of rebuilding, of healing, and of moving forward. With a final, defiant roar, I spread my wings and took to the sky, leading our forces towards the dawn of a new day. Draconic, Part 2. Janana's War Notes. The Things Required to Defeat Vesper. Written after the Battle of Black Ash. Dedicated to Coloso Amazi, who refused to let darkness have the final word. I never intended to write this. Coloso always kept the journals. He believed history should remember truth, even when truth was ugly. I preferred action. Now he is gone, so I write, not because I wish to, because someone must. If you are reading this, then either I survived long enough to place these pages into your hands, or I did not. Either way, Vesper must never be allowed to rise again. Many believe strength defeats monsters. They are wrong. Knowledge does. So here is what we learned. First, do not fight Vesper because you hate him. Hatred is a language he understands. It feeds him. Fight because you love someone enough that you refuse to let the world become his. That difference matters. I watched thousands charge him screaming in rage. They became corpses. I watched one old paladin march toward him with quiet resolve. He became a hero. Second, never face him alone. His magic is not merely destructive. It is overwhelming. He commands nearly every known school of magic. Necromancy, blood, soul, gravity, fire, ice, void, illusion, transmutation. He has forgotten more spells than most kingdoms have ever recorded. If you duel him, you have already lost. Third, destroy every record he leaves behind. Books, scrolls, runes, laboratories, students. Nothing survives. Not because knowledge is evil. Because his knowledge is poison. We burned Thalion's writings. Had we not, another mind master would have risen. I will make that mistake only once. Fourth, never allow him time. Every hour strengthens him. Every battlefield strengthens him. Every corpse strengthens him. Every defeat strengthens him. War is his harvest. Peace is his enemy. Fifth, do not let him collect souls. This is the lesson Coloso died to teach me. We searched for years. We believed the answer lay in ancient spells, forgotten relics, divine weapons. It did not. It was his claw. The black metal claw fixed to his left foreleg. That claw drinks souls. Every soul becomes power. Every power becomes another spell. Every spell becomes another army. Destroy the claw, and Vesper becomes merely impossible. Leave it intact, and he becomes inevitable. Sixth, gods matter. Not because they fight, because they give mortals reasons to. Imparis gave Coloso purpose. Bahamut gave me courage. Anvil forged weapons that held longer than mortal steel. Bravel reminded frightened people why they protected strangers. Skingrad. Then I still do not know what to think about him. Death should not bargain. Yet he did. And because of it, many friends walked beside us one last time. Perhaps even death has enemies. Seventh, do not underestimate dragons. Do not overestimate them either. 30 ancient dragons answered my call. 29 died. Their names deserve songs. Instead, they received silence. Vesper can kill legends. Never forget that. Finally, if victory demands one life, offer your own before asking another. That is what Coloso believed. I hated him for it. Perhaps a part of me always will. He never asked permission, never trusted me enough to carry his burden beside him. He smiled, walked forward, and became the last soul Vesper ever consumed. The claw shattered from within. For one heartbeat, the impossible became mortal. That heartbeat was all I needed. I still hear his last words. Now, just now, nothing more. Not goodbye. Not thank you. Just trust. I struck. Vesper died. The world lived. Then I wish he had been selfish. Just once. If you ever speak his name, do not call him perfect. He was stubborn, infuriating, quiet when he should have spoken. He carried guilt that belonged to no one anymore. He believed every death was his responsibility. He laughed too little. He forgave too slowly. He never truly forgave himself. And yet, I have never known a better man. If Unris remembers him only as the one who slew Vesper, then Unris remembers too little. Remember instead the man who became the monster, realized it, and spent the rest of his life making certain no one else ever had to. That is Coloso Amazi. My friend, my brother in arms, my greatest disappointment, my greatest pride. May the gods judge him gently. They owe him that much. Draconic, last page, part 3, Janana's poem. The last flight of Coloso. Mortals measure life by years. Dragons measure it by the mountains that remember your footsteps. The mountains shall remember this one. Beneath these fractured stones, where ivy clasps forgotten prayers and the bells surrendered their voices to centuries, I return the last night to the silence from which saints are born. Sleep now, Coloso Amazi. Lay down the sword that split kingdoms from despair. Lay down the shield that bore the weight of every stranger's tomorrow. Lay down the name you spent a lifetime redeeming. for no burden remains that your shoulders have not already carried. O Imperis, Lady of Law, keeper of royal blood, whose songs are heard only by hearts broken enough to listen, receive your son, not as a conqueror, not as a paladin, not as a killer. Receive him as the impossible miracle that darkness accidentally forged when it tried to create a monster. I knew him, not the stories, not the statues they shall carve, not the lies history always wraps around heroes. I knew the weary soul who counted every grave as though it were his own heartbeat. I knew the man whose victories tasted of ash, because every triumph reminded him of someone who had not lived to witness it. I knew the fool who apologized to the dead when no living soul blamed him. He walked through centuries, as though each year were another stone placed upon his back. Yet he never bent. He merely walked slower. And somehow, slower became farther. Hear me, ancestors whose wings first stirred creation. Hear me, great dragons whose bones became mountains. Hear me, stars whose fires taught us that eternity is simply another word for patience. Bear witness. A mortal has earned remembrance that rivals our own. His courage was not the blazing inferno young warriors mistake for bravery. No. His courage was the last lantern still burning after every other flame had surrendered to the storm. It whispered. It trembled. It refused. He slew no darkness. He endured it. There is a difference only the oldest dragons understand. I watched him offer his years to death, offer his sleep to nightmares, offer his joy to duty, offer his soul to save mine. Even now, I would strike him for making that choice without me. Even now, I would embrace him for the very same reason. Such was my impossible friend. The sky itself shall forever bear his absence. The wind, finding no answering footsteps, shall wander these hills like an orphan searching for home. Even the rain shall hesitate before falling upon this grave, lest it disturb one who earned his rest 1,000 battles too late. Let no king claim him. Kings inherit crowns. He inherited guilt. Let no army claim him. Armies win wars. He carried worlds. Let no temple claim him. The gods themselves waited patiently for him to forgive himself. Old church, broken sanctuary, faithful stones that refuse to fall. Guard him, for he guarded everyone else. And should another age awaken, should evil once again grow arrogant enough to believe goodness extinct, then let the earth remember the shape of this grave. Let the roots whisper his name. Let the bells ring without hands to pull them. Let dragons descend from forgotten heavens. Let gods fall silent. For if ever the world asks what one soul is worth, tell them of Coloso Amazi, the man who entered darkness wearing chains, and departed it leaving only light behind. Sleep now, old friend. The watch is ended. The burden is not yours. The road continues. But not for you. Not anymore. Fly where even dragons cannot follow. Until the first dawn breaks again. I shall keep watch. For both of us.